What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Origins with me, TheOneIntegral. Today we are going to be covering the grass type starter line from the Sinnoh region, Turtwig, Grotle and Torterra. So without further ado, let's just jump straight in. So, Turtwig, it's number 387 in the National Pokédex, and its Japanese name is Netoru, and is the tiny leaf Pokemon. Being the grass type starter for Sinnoh, it is a pure grass type. It also stands at 0.4 meters or 1 foot 4 inches and weighs 10.2 kilograms or 22.5 pounds. Taking a quick look at the models for Turtwig, you can see in its shiny form, its body is sort of a darker green colour basically, and that's the only main change. It's a darker green and more of a greeny yellow, more than a pure yellow. Evolution wise, Turtwig will evolve into Grotle starting at level 18, the highest of the Sinnoh starters. So Turtwig is a small quadruped Pokemon that, as I mentioned, is primarily light green in colour. However, it does have yellow sections, i.e. its lower jaw, as well as its bottom of its legs or feet. Its back is covered in this brown shell, although it's not actually that brown because it's mainly lined with this black lining and sort of highlighting, so you can only see a small amount of brown on it. Its mouth is very beak-like and also has these yellow eyes to go along with it, and above the top of its head, on the top of its head, it has a small sprout growing out the top with 2 green leaves coming off. What can we know from the Pokédex about Turtwig? Well, the shell on the back is actually made of hardened soil, and if the Turtwig is healthy, this will apparently feel quite moist. Turtwig, like most grass-type Pokemon, can also undergo photosynthesis to gain extra energy and heal itself, so that's what the leaf is there for, but the leaf atop the head will also wilt when Turtwig is thirsty, so better make sure to keep up his water supplies. Turtwig can often be found living alongside lakes, because obviously they need water to survive, so you can assume that's where they like to be. A nice connection between grass and water for this evolution line actually. So what's Turtwig's design and basis on? Well, as I'm sure you can probably tell, it's based on a turtle, more specifically a baby turtle, but by looking at its beak-like mouth, we can assume it's going to be specifically based on a snapping turtle, a couple species of turtle that can actually snap and extend their neck to do some real big damage. I'm sure you might have seen some videos online of snapping turtles destroying pineapples and the like, so you might not want to mess with Turtwig, it might have a pretty big bite. So what about the names? Well, the Japanese name Netoru is a combination of ne, meaning sprout, and turtle, so sprout turtle. Simple as that. The English name Turtwig is a combination of turtle and twig, again relating to grass, the grass typing and nature, so turtle twig. Then one other name we have to look at here is Chelast, the German name for Turtwig, and this is a combination of Chelone, which is the order of turtle, the order of, sort of how animals are sort of, distributed, and that's the order that turtles belong to, as well as Ast, which is German for branch, so again sort of turtle branch sort of thing, all relating to both turtles and nature. Before we move on to Grotle, one final look at Turtwig, we'll look at how big it is. Assuming the size of it is actually taken from the top of its head as opposed to the top of its sprout, you can see it's a fairly, it's not like a tiny Pokemon, but it's not a huge Pokemon either. Comes up to about Ash's knee, and as I'm sure in the anime, we've seen that, so 0.4 meters or 1 foot 4 inches. Nothing huge, about the size of like an adult snapping turtle, so still might want to sort of watch out for that there. So that's it for Turtwig. If we then move on to its evolution, Grotle. It is number 388 in the National Pokédex, coming right after Turtwig, and its Japanese name is Hayashigame. It is the Grove Pokemon, and like Turtwig, a pure grass type. Grotle now stands at 1.1 meters tall or 3 foot 7 inches, and weighs 97 kilograms or 213.8 pounds, so it's getting heavier and bigger. Looking at the models from Generation 6, you can see Shiny Grotle is very similar to a Shiny Turtwig, getting sort of a darker green and a lighter greeny yellow. However, these two are now switched over. The main body is actually now a greeny yellow, whereas the shiny, sort of the yellow sections of its body are now becoming the darker, paler green. Evolution-wise, obviously Turtwig evolves into Grotle starting at level 18, but Grotle will further evolve into Torterra starting at level 32. So Turtwig was a small quadruped Pokemon, and now Grotle is a medium-sized quadruped Pokemon, again having a very similar colouring, with the lower body being pale green. However, the whole of its upper body is now covered in this shell-like armour, whereas Turtwig just had the shell on its back. Grotle's shell seems to extend over the top of its head and down on its tail as well. This shell is yellow with also 3 brown ridges along the back with 2 bushes, one coming out from sort of either of the side ridges. These feet are yellow once again, but now we can see visible claws, which are 3 on each foot, and it also has this yellow jaw, very similar to Turtwig, except that it has 2 spikes coming out the side of its mouth. Speaking of its mouth, it's beaked once more, and it also has 2 black eyes, so it's very similar to Turtwig in its design, it's just getting bigger now. What can we learn about Grotle from the Pokédex? Well, very similar to Turtwig living alongside lakes, Grotle live in forests alongside water sources, and it also knows where pure water can be found, so will help out other Pokémon by carrying them there on its back. It's also said to have its own secret spring water if it lives in a forest, but obviously Grotle might not like to share that with the other Pokémon. During the day, Grotle can leave the forest to sunbathe and let the bushes on its back gain a load of energy and photosynthesis once again. But these bushes can also grow berries on, which obviously other Pokemon also like to snack on. So again, where's it based on? Well, it's based on a snapping turtle, as we already established with Turtwig, because it has a very similar beaked mouth and such, but it could also draw inspiration from the world turtle, which is basically like, it's in many different cultures, but it's a turtle that carries the world on its back sort of thing, and obviously having these bushes on its back with berries and such, and carrying Pokemon around, this could link in there. But it could also link into the Minogame, which I've spoken about in my Squirtle Origins video, which is basically like an ancient turtle that had seaweed on its back, or sort of thing. It's probably more linked into Blastoise and its line, but Grotle could draw some inspiration from it as well. Taking a look at the names, the Japanese name Hayashigame is a combination of Hayashi meaning grove and Kame meaning turtle, so grove turtle. Grotle, similarly, is a combination of grove and turtle, grove turtle once again, but it could also include grotto or grow, since grotto is sort of like, as we see in Generation 5, grotto is inside the bushes, and grow obviously linking into plants and such. One other name to look at is the Korean name for it, which is Sepulbugi, which is a combination of sepul meaning bushes and geobugi meaning turtle, so bush turtle basically. Taking a look at its size before we move on to Torterra, you can see Grotle, growing bigger now, is pretty big. Its top of its bushes come up to about Ash's eye line, however I've measured the height of it to the top of its ridges here, so 1.1 meters, 3 foot 7 inches, comes up to about Ash's chest. It's a pretty big Pokemon. You wouldn't want to mess with it at this point, even if you want to mess with Turtwig, you definitely wouldn't want to mess with Grotle. If it gets angry, you're going to be on the receiving end of that. So, then let's move on to the final Pokemon for today and have a look at Torterra. It's number 389 in the National Pokédex, and its Japanese name is Dodaitusu. It is the continent Pokemon now and a grass ground type. It now stands at 2.2 meters or 7 foot 3 inches, so it's gotten a lot bigger, and it weighs 310 kilograms or 683.4 pounds, so a lot heavier as well. Taking a look at the models, you can see shiny form similarly carries on the same sort of colouring we've seen along the line, with a sort of a light yellow-green and a paler green colour, with the yellow-green now sort of reverting to be what it was on Turtwig in the first place. I mentioned about the evolution already, so let's start taking a look at Torterra itself. Being, Turtwig was small, Grotle was medium, now we have a large quadruped Pokemon. Its body is similar to the other two, but different. There's no yellow on its body anymore. We have green and brown. We have a green upper and then a brown lower body, with also a green shell on its back, which has a sort of a white rim as well, with these 3 spiked extrusions on one side. Look like rocks, we don't exactly know what they are though, but it has this nice white rim or silver rim or grey rim, or however you want to describe it, around the edge of it. It also has this large tree growing atop its back as well, like nice big branches and some nice leaves and such, almost like a little world on top of its back. And it has these thick brown legs using to carry itself along, with 3 claws apiece, much similar to Grotle. Its head is now green, with a brown snout, and right on the end of its sort of snout it has this nice black beak. It also has these 2 spikes protruding from either its cheeks, and now a red eye, so it's changed a bit in the facial department. What can we learn from Pokédex entries about Torterra? Well, similar to Grotle carrying Pokemon on its back, smaller Pokemon can actually gather to nest on Torterra's back, and some can even be born and spend their entire life there, because they have a little ecosystem there. They've got a tree, they've got some grass, ground, etc. It's pretty nice. Torterra having this massive tree on its back is often mistaken for a moving forest, since obviously moving around, the tree is moving. and ancient societies also believed that a gigantic Torterra could dwell beneath the ground and they could be living on a Torterra, hence the continent Pokemon, and hence the fact that, Pokemon and people live on its back. Not necessarily people, but Pokemon in particular. So, what's it based on? Well, similar to Grotle and Turtwig, obviously, based on a snapping turtle, as well as drawing inspiration from the world turtle. It's even more apparent here because obviously Pokemon live on its back their entire life. But the design could also be based partly on an ankylosaur, obviously an extinct dinosaur, because of the spikes and such, and it could also inherit features from extinct turtle species, which also had similar spike-like features. Finally, let's look at the names. We have the Japanese name Dodaitusu, which is a combination of Do, meaning earth or ground, Dai, meaning large, and tortoise. So basically it's a combination, it's basically like earth, large earth tortoise. Yes, we have tortoise in the name rather than turtle, but it is more and often based on a turtle. The English name Torterra is a combination of tortoise and terra, which is Latin for ground, so, ground turtle. But it could also incorporate terrapins, which is the name of a small freshwater species of turtle, so it could link in there. And the structure of its name, Torterra, is similar to Torterra, which is a tree species endemic to New Zealand, linking in again with the grass typing. Now, I said finally for the names, but we're not quite done yet because we have the size to do for Torterra, and it's a monster. At 2.2 meters or 7 foot 3 inches, I am measuring this to the top of its back, not the top of its tree, and that makes it huge. It's very similar to the size it is in the anime though, so we can assume this is fairly accurate, and it's a pretty big beast. You wouldn't want to mess with Torterra, but it would be a nice companion just to sort of carry you around on its back, because I'm sure it can handle that. But that is going to be it for today's episode of Pokemon Origins. Today we covered Turtwig, Grotle and Torterra. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to hit the like button down below and suggest what other Pokemon lines you'd like to see covered in the future. But for now, this is going to be it for me for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friend.